Imagine this. A young genius obsessed with conquering death itself works in secret for years. He assembles a body from stolen parts, harnesses the raw power of electricity, and on a dark, stormy night, he brings it to life. The creature opens its eyes. It breathes. It moves. And in that instant, the creator is filled with absolute horror at what he's made. He runs. He abandons it completely. Left alone in a hostile world, rejected by everyone including the one person who should have cared. The creature's pain turns to rage, and what began as a triumph of human ambition becomes a tragedy that destroys everything the creator loves. This isn't just the plot of a 200-year-old horror story. This is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, a true story born from real events, real science, and a summer of nightmares. But here's the chilling part. This same pattern plays out today in boardrooms, startups, and tech labs around the world. Founders build revolutionary products, scale them fast, and then abandon responsibility for the consequences. And sometimes, the monster comes back to destroy them. If you're an entrepreneur, innovator, or leader building something that could change the world, this story is a warning written directly for you. Stick with me for the next few minutes as we uncover the shocking real-life origins of Frankenstein, break down its deepest themes, and pull out powerful, practical lessons that could save your company or even reshape how you think about innovation and ethics. The year is 1816, and Europe is experiencing what historians call the year without a summer. The massive eruption of Mount Tambora in Indonesia in 1815 had thrown so much ash into the atmosphere that it blocked sunlight across the globe. Crops failed, famine spread, skies stayed gray, and it rained almost constantly in Europe. It was cold, gloomy, apocalyptic weather even in June and July. On the shores of Lake Geneva in Switzerland, a group of brilliant, rebellious young romantics had gathered for what was supposed to be a carefree summer getaway. The central figure was Lord Byron, the ultimate bad boy celebrity poet of the era, famous for his scandalous lifestyle and magnetic charisma. He rented a beautiful mansion called Villa Diodati. Staying with him was his personal physician, John Polidori. Visiting frequently was one of the greatest lyrical poets in English history, Percy Shelley, his 18-year-old fiancée, Mary Godwin, and some friends. But the endless rain and cold trapped them indoors for days on end. They couldn't sail, they couldn't hike, they were basically stuck in this grand villa with nothing but candlelight, wine, laudanum, and conversation. To entertain themselves, they read aloud from a collection of German ghost stories called Phantasmagoriana. The atmosphere was perfect. Thunder, flickering fire, and creative minds feeding off each other's energy. One stormy night, Byron proposed a challenge. We will each write a ghost story. It was meant to be a bit of fun to pass the time. Byron started something but abandoned it. Percy tried but didn't produce much. However, Polidori wrote a tale called The Vampire, which became the first modern vampire story in English and directly influenced later works like Dracula. But Mary was blocked. She later wrote that everyone kept asking her, "Have you thought of a story yet?" And she felt humiliated saying no every time. Then, one fateful night, the group stayed up late discussing the latest scientific experiments. They talked about Erasmus Darwin, Charles Darwin's grandfather, and his theories on the origin of life, and especially about galvanism, the idea that electricity could reanimate dead tissue. Scientists like Giovanni Aldini had demonstrated how electric currents could make limbs twitch or dead frogs leap. Byron and Percy debated whether it might be possible to restore life to a corpse. Mary had been listening quietly and pondering. When she went to bed, she couldn't sleep. She ended up having what she referred to as a waking dream. It was a vivid vision of a pale student standing beside the hideous figure he'd assembled and brought to life with a spark of electricity. The creature stirred, and the scientist recoiled in horror. She knew that was her story. Over the next few months, she expanded that into the full novel Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, published in 1818 when she was 20 years old. It's now recognized not just as a masterpiece of Gothic literature, but as the very first science fiction novel. Now, why does this 200-year-old book still grip us so tightly? And why does it matter to business leaders today? At its heart, Frankenstein is not really about the monster. It's about the creator Victor Frankenstein and the consequences of unchecked ambition, ethical blindness, and abandonment of responsibility. Victor is a gifted young scientist obsessed with conquering death. He studies obsessively, isolates himself for years, and finally achieves the impossible. He assembles a being from dead body parts and animates it with electricity. But the moment it opens its eyes, Victor is overwhelmed with disgust at its appearance. He runs away in horror and completely abandons his creation. The creature is actually eloquent, intelligent, sensitive, and very lonely. It teaches itself to read by spying on a family and consuming literature. He simply longs for companionship and acceptance, but everywhere it goes, humans scream and attack it because of how it looks. Rejected by its own creator and by society, it eventually turns vengeful, and the tragedy unfolds. Mary Shelley is asking big questions. What are the responsibilities that come with the power to create? What happens when ambition outruns ethics? What are the human costs of playing God? These questions feel almost custom-written for our modern age of disruptive innovation. Let's pull out the deepest, most actionable lessons for business leadership and life. Lesson 1. True innovation requires responsibility baked in from day one. Victor embodies the archetype of the brilliant but reckless innovator. He achieves a scientific breakthrough, but he never once pauses to ask, should he do this, or what happens if he succeeds? In business terms, he's the ultimate move fast and break things founder who never thinks about the breaking part. We've seen this play out repeatedly. Social media platforms optimized for endless engagement without considering mental health impacts or misinformation spread. Ride-sharing apps that disrupted transportation but left cities dealing with traffic chaos and labor issues. Biotech startups promising miracles while cutting ethical corners. Think of Theranos. Elizabeth Holmes and Sunny Balwani raised billions on the promise of revolutionary blood testing technology, but they prioritized hype and secrecy over scientific rigor and patient safety. When the tech didn't work, they faked results. The company collapsed spectacularly. Investors lost fortunes, patients were endangered, and both founders faced criminal charges. The takeaway is clear. If you're building something powerful, whether it's a product, a company, or a technology, you don't get to wash your hands of it once it's out in the world. Responsibility isn't an afterthought, it's the foundation. Ask the hard questions early. Who could this harm? What are the unintended consequences? How do we build safeguards and ethics into the core design? Lesson 2. Never abandon your creation. This is perhaps the most heartbreaking part of the novel. The creature repeatedly begs Victor for basic compassion, a companion, guidance, acceptance. Victor refuses, and that rejection is what ultimately turns the creature destructive. In business, how many founders pour their soul into building a company, hit a big milestone or exit, and then emotionally check out? Or leaders who launch a product, declare victory, and move on without providing ongoing support, updates, or stewardship. We see this especially today with powerful AI systems. Companies are racing to build ever more capable models, releasing them rapidly into the world. But if those systems are abandoned and released without robust safety or ongoing monitoring, they can amplify biases, spread falsehoods, or possibly cause other harms we can't yet predict. The parallel is striking. Just as Victor's creature was powerful but misunderstood and mishandled, modern AI can be incredibly useful yet dangerous if not nurtured responsibly. Great leaders treat their companies, teams, and products like living things that need continuous care. They mentor employees, listen to customer feedback, and stay accountable. Lesson 3. Hubris and isolation are the fastest paths to catastrophic failure. Victor works in total secrecy, driven by ego and a God complex. He ignores warnings from mentors and loved ones. He believes he's above normal human limits, and that isolation blinds him to the consequences. Contrast that with how Mary Shelley herself created the novel, in a collaborative, intellectually vibrant environment where ideas bounced around late into the night. In startups and innovation, we've seen the dangers of the opposite approach. Cult-like secretive cultures, founders who refuse outside feedback, boards that rubber stamp everything. These often precede massive blow-ups. Do you remember WeWork's spectacular fall? That was fueled by unchecked founder worship and isolation from reality checks. The antidote is humility and diverse input. Surround yourself with people who will challenge you. Seek mentors, advisors, critics. Build teams with varied perspectives. Collaboration and openness aren't weaknesses, they're superpowers that prevent blind spots. Lesson 4. Appearance versus reality. Don't judge or build by surface metrics alone. The creature is judged solely by its terrifying exterior, even though its mind and soul are profound. Victor himself judges his creation in that same manner the moment it awakens. In business, we do this constantly, chasing vanity metrics like user growth or valuation, while ignoring underlying health, building products that look impressive on demos but crumble under real use. Sustainable success comes from valuing substance over flash, building things that are genuinely good, not just ones that look good in a pitch deck. Bonus tie-in. Frankenstein as the ultimate AI cautionary tale. Today, whenever ethicists, researchers, or regulators discuss the risks of advanced artificial intelligence, Frankenstein inevitably comes up. We're in the midst of creating systems that may soon rival or surpass human intelligence in certain domains. The question isn't just can we build them, it's should we? And if so, how do we ensure we don't repeat Victor's mistakes? Companies and leaders who prioritize safety, transparency, alignment with human values, and long-term stewardship will be the ones that build trust and lasting impact. Whereas those who rush ahead recklessly risk creating something that ultimately turns against them or against society. More than 2 centuries after that fateful rainy summer on the shores of Lake Geneva, Mary Shelley, a teenager who turned a waking nightmare into one of the most prophetic works in human history, still speaks to us across time. Her message is urgent, unflinching, and inescapable. The greatest power we possess is the power to create. But with that power comes a sacred, non-negotiable responsibility. Create without ethics, without foresight, without ongoing care, and you risk birthing something that doesn't just fail. It turns against you, against everything you love, against the world itself. In boardrooms and garages, in code repositories and research labs, we are all modern-day victors. We're assembling new life from digital parts, animating intelligence with electricity once again. The storm is gathering, and the spark is ready. The only question left is, will we learn from Victor's tragedy, or will we repeat it? Will we nurture our creations with wisdom and compassion, or will we recoil in horror the moment they awaken, abandoning them to rage and ruin? And you're one of the creators. So choose carefully, because one day, the thing you build might look back at you and ask why you brought it into existence. What will your answer be? Have you seen Frankenstein-like mistakes in real companies? Or maybe even in your own work? Share this video with someone who's building something big that might need to hear this. Hit subscribe because next time, we're diving into another timeless story that's secretly shaping the world of business and power right under our noses. You won't want to miss it. We'll see you in the next one.